Good evening, Director Dabney. How are you, sir?
Good evening, Council President Good. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, I'll get started. Again, good evening, Council President Good, Vice President McCray, distinguished council members, CBAC Chairperson Bright, CBAC Advisory Committee members, Cabinet colleagues, Department of Public Works Division heads, administrative staff, the Honorable Mayor Mapp, and the general public. The Department of Public Works is pleased to present its 2022 operating budget. The Department of Public Works is comprised of 7 divisions: Public Works, Signal Systems, Engineering, Parks and Recreation, Inspections, Senior Center, and the Parking Utility, which is self-sustaining, with an overall 2022 operating budget request of $8,948,833, of which $7,767,095 is for salaries and $1,181,738 for other operating expenses. Please note again that $776,873 of this budget includes the parking utility that is self-sufficient/sustaining. Minus the $776,873, the overall budget will reduce to $8,171,960. Our overall Department of Public Works mission is to continue improving on all services provided to ensure the health, safety, welfare, and quality of life of all residents. My dedicated administrative staff, division heads, and their respective employees shall continue pursuing our mission on a daily basis. Now, I would like to give a brief overview of all 7 divisions within the department, so the CBAC Commission will have a general idea of service provided. Division of Public Works provides maintenance and repairs to city streets and other related infrastructure maintenance, such as potholes and crack seal repair, mechanical street sweeping, tree care, recreation maintenance, building maintenance, fleet maintenance, property abatement maintenance, stormwater maintenance, leaf collection, snow removal, and other emergency response services that may arise. And just record, we removed 5,000 yards of debris during Hurricane Ida, assisting, the PMUA with services, which was important to the residents of City of Plainfield. Our Signal Division, services provided are repairs and replacement of city street lights, traffic controller, traffic and street signs, emergency repair due to accidents, inclement weather, installation, video surveillance cameras, alarm systems, iPhone wiring, emergency response for light outages, process for PSE&G. Okay, we have 253 signals, 30,000 traffic signs and markings. Our Engineering Division, service provided are road improvement design, stormwater management, floodplain management, parks, project design and construction management, grant funded projects management, street openings permits, inspection management, construction site permit management, approvals, and other capital improvement projects and services as needed. We resurfaced 2 miles of roadway in 2122, Prospect Avenue and East 3rd Street in JDOT and with CDBG grant funding for $1,095,324. Our Parks and Recreation will hopefully be opening parks citywide commencing in May. And I say hopefully due to the fact that it's hard right now getting lifeguards and park monitors. I guess with the competition out there, I guess we're going to look to raise the rates based on what's going on with that. We'll continue providing virtually in-person activities, programs with our pool scheduled to open this summer. Again, lifeguards are needed and park monitors, which is hard for us to get, but we're going to start advertising, of course, Facebook and everywhere else we can to try to make this a reality this summer. Inspections. Service provided are to impact all property maintenance, exterior and interior code enforcement violations, and buying those properties in violation compliant with all property code. To provide certificate of compliance for sale, rental inspection, and exemptions where applicable, in addition to property maintenance cleanup referrals to city and private property abatement across the city. Clean and liens. In 2021, division inspections conducted 763 property maintenance inspections across the city. Our senior center. The center provides services to anyone 55 years of age and older. Currently, there are 1,300 seniors on the membership list. Division head goal is to increase membership in 2022-23 to approximately 1,500 by using resources at no cost to the city. Our parking utility, to provide and maximize all street and off-street municipal public parking for residents, businesses, and visitors across the city. We have purchased and installed 36 kiosk pay stations, 37 digital, dual head meter stations, and 12 single head meters. These pay stations and meter offer all users 3 payment options: pay by coin, credit card, and by phone. That's just a brief overview of everything that we're doing here in the Public Works Services. We have, just so you know, Councilman, just for the record, as I move forward, our Division of Public Works Engineering Signal, we have been working, getting things done throughout the city. We milled and paved 13 roads, totaling 2.7 miles into 21. We did crack sealing work of 38,500 linear feet of roadway, which totaled 7.229 miles. And that's crack sealing work that we did there with that. That adds to the life expectancy of the road 3.3 to 5 years of each road. So that's something we're going to continue doing throughout. The goal, objective, is continue doing more than 12 miles this year. We're hoping to try to do 20 if we can, based on the coastal weather, temperature, and et cetera. But it's ideal for everything that we do with that. Totally 4.7 miles of roadway was done in 2021. We did 753 exterior inspections, which is grass, weeds, all type of property violations on the exterior. We did 101 quality of life inspections and re-inspections, and all re-inspections were abated. 745 certificate of compliance were issued for sales of properties, which is showing how much Plainfield is booming. 136 rent-to inspections. And it's an overview of how much Plainfield is growing in terms of inspections that we've done. In our signal division, we're looking to do a fixed time flow of traffic, meaning our traffic lights, to make sure they're in sequence and up to date, so we can have better traffic calm and flow of traffic across the city of Plainfield. In addition, we're looking to install speed humps in 2022 in various parts of the city, again, for more better traffic calm. We're going to look to upgrade lights on South Avenue. We did 4, and there's another 80 we're looking to upgrade with LED lighting. So there's a lot of little things we're undertaking here in the city of Plainfield to make things better. So that's it, I guess. Mr. Council President, I'll just take any questions you may have so I can review everything in the budget with all council members and the CBAC Commission.
You're muted, Council President.
Yes, I just unmuted myself. So thank you so much. Director Dabney, thank you so much. We appreciate that. We're going to start with the governing body to see what questions they may have. From what I understand, Councilwoman Terry Briggs-Jones has submitted some questions, and she's satisfied with those answers that Director Dabney has supplied to her. So we'll move right along to Councilwoman Ashley Davis.
Thank you. Director Dabney, in signaling and inspections, they both have a $50,000 increase in salaries. Are these for new positions?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Also in inspection, they're asking for that one new position, but I see in their overtime, they haven't used overtime for the past 2 years. So if they're not even utilizing overtime, why do they need a new position?
That's a good question. Well, the overtime wasn't utilized this past 2 years, but the position itself is for citywide work to get things done across the city, which we're inundated with inspections. We have them all over the place. And just to add to that, we're looking, overtime will be utilized eventually, but at the time, we were just slow to get everything caught up with everything else. We didn't want to put people out there at night. And plus, with this pandemic, that 1 year, we didn't just touch anything because we weren't doing internal inspections, so we didn't do that. But this year here, yes, we were delayed in some things, so we didn't use overtime. I just didn't use overtime. I just held back on that. But we do need the enforcement out there, the bodies, the able bodies to do that. Even with the overtime, it wouldn't increase the amount of manpower we need to cover the areas we need to cover.
Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Welcome.
Councilman Steve Parker. You're muted.
Okay. I'm sorry. I don't have any questions.
Councilman McKenna.
Yes, so one comment, I'd like to see some numbers in the goals, and this kind of goes across all the departments I've seen the goals for. Becoming more green should have some sort of numerical goal. Quality of life task force review, and then ending with more to come is a little generic. One thing just to take away, because I know you don't have the answer now because it's the third budget meeting I've asked for, this information, the Safe Path to Schools grant that the state gave us. If you could send me the information on where we spent that and what crosswalks we did near the schools, that would be great. My first question, we don't have any seasonal workers in DPW this year. I noticed it's zeroed out. Why is that?
That's Councilman, good question. But let me answer the first one too, if you don't mind. What you said, I'll Safe Route to School. Safe Route to School is coming this summer. That'll be being done, the work over there in the area. Everything was designed, so we'll be headed out to get that done, just for the record.
That was the 2017 grant.
Well, the funds are still there and the monies are there, so we needed more funds. So it's coming together to get everything done over there with Safe Route to School. That'll be getting done.
5 years after the grant.
It'll be getting done based on delays with some of the funds. So,
Okay, so the last year answer where you had already spent it, you were going to get me the info, was not a correct answer. You hadn't spent it.
say it again, Council, I'm sorry.
I said the last year's answer where you had already done it and you were going to get me the information, which I didn't get. You hadn't actually spent the funds yet.
Well, you said you asked for information. I apologize. I'll get you information. Yes, the funds would be being spent. Yes. It's
Okay,
coming up.
so send me information on where you're going to spend it and when, if you would.
Sure, that's not a problem at all.
Okay,
And the
then
next question, there's other question is that's going to be ARPA funding that we'll be getting to cover the cost for the seasonals for Public Works.
So you're not going to spend any money on seasonal workers?
I'm just going to plug in here because I think this is going to be a common question throughout the night. In our last council meeting, we voted a reappropriation of some of the ARPA money. I think it was $2 million that we are plugging into the city budget for seasonal workers, police overtime, PPE, safety equipment. So there's a lot of lines that you're going to see not only in the DPW budget, but also in police and all the other departments where the request is there. And then you see we zeroed it out or we significantly lowered it. Those are the ones that were voted on last week to be reappropriated into the budget that way. So seasonal workers are one of the things that we reappropriated last week into the budget to use ARPA money with.
And what is that figure? Because we're going to have an expenditure line, correct?
What is the figure of?
Seasonal workers for DPW.
So what if he report?
In the budget, it's zero. So the budget has an expense line and a revenue side, right?
And what's the request?
Expense side needs to have a figure.
Okay, so what was the request? And you're talking about the division of Public Works?
Yes.
110,000
Just the seasonal. No, not your request, the administration's request.
You're talking about, I'm going to the page that you're looking at now, so that
It was 110,000 requests that we asked for. Right.
Okay, and that's what we are.
Actually, seasonal workers, you asked for 110,000, the administration asked for zero. It's
So, no, the
That's what-
administration is recommending $0 because we're going to fill that 110,000 with ARPA money that we reallocated last week.
Okay, so it should be noted that the budget expenditure for seasonal workers is going to be 110,000.
That
It
is
will be
correct.
110,000, yes. And you're gonna see that repeatedly throughout the night and throughout these upcoming nights. So that's why I wanted to get ahead of it now, so that everybody knows what they're looking at when they see those big numbers. And they have
Clarify for me, B. Levinson, that was a $2.1 or $2.3 million reallocation.
I have to look at the resolution. Director,
Should be 2.5.
Yeah, it was,
2.5, so we have a $100 million budget that now has a $2.5 million expenditure increase over 100 million, correct?
There
it's
is,
fast for me, I couldn't follow that.
there is an allocation that totals $8 million on with ARPA-related expenses spread across different categories.
And where is that?
The seasonal worker piece, the seasonal worker piece in general is $594,000 across all organizations.
And that, we're gonna get to that in recreation, et cetera, correct?
Yeah, you're gonna see it in recreation, you're gonna see it in multiple divisions.
So the additional 5 million is not gonna be an addition to the budget, it's already elsewhere in a line item. As an expenditure,
Correct.
and it's spread out everywhere?
Wherever there was a request for seasonal workers, they were all grouped under a single line called seasonal workers. And again, there's $594,000 worth of seasonal worker requests across all organizations.
So in the budget,
There's 3 minutes remaining.
that's fine, in the budget, there's $594,000 in a budget line for seasonal workers that's gonna be spread out over multiple.
Yes.
Correct.
So let me go through it real quick. Tell me about the senior program where we have a program and community initiatives. The department asked for 60,000. Mayor kept it at 28,000. What was the delta there? The 32,000 that we're not going to do, that the department wanted to do. Or is that in another line item too that we don't know that?
What was that, Councilman? I'm sorry.
I said program and community initiatives in the senior budget. The department asked for 60,000. The administration asked for 28,000, which is what was submitted to us. What was the difference there? 32,000 that they wanted to do that the administration doesn't want to do. For the seniors, which you said earlier, we're going to take from 1,300 to 1,500.
Dr. Dabney, I believe that was regarding social work services that we decided to do on a part-time basis.
That was there, it was in two locations, right? It was for social work and
Yeah,
nutritionists, social workers, et cetera. That's what that was for.
They increase seniors from 1,300 to 1,500, and then we're going to do part-time nutritional social work.
Excuse me, they're gonna do, say it again, Councilman, sorry, what you said?
So you're going to increase the number of seniors on your senior list, but you're going to just do a part-time nutritional social worker position instead of a full-time.
Well, the goal is to try to become full-time over time. Yes, that's an initial goal to do that.
Yeah, that's a new program. And it needs to have some history before it gets fully funded.
Really a pilot now.
And the summer pool program is also part of your seasonal,
Yeah,
Yes,
yes, it is.
as well as the Parks and Rec seasonal, which I asked before, just to clarify, the 300K.
Yes, that would be for the same thing, yeah.
All out of the budget line. All right, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mills Ransom? You're muted, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I submitted to you and to the clerk the questions that my CBAC representative had sent to Mr. West. And I said to you in the email that I supported those, so I'm waiting to hear the answers to those.
Thank you so much. I that slipped my mind. The most recent knowledge that I had was of Councilwoman Terry Bridges-Jones. I did receive your email. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Move right along to our chair and vice president.
Sorry, Council President, what were the questions? And do we get answers to them, or we just move along because we skipped it?
Director Dabney, would you mind reading those questions and answering those for us?
I'm trying to figure out, I don't have the question. I'm trying to.
Council President, if I may,
Yes.
all CBAC questions go through the CBAC chair, and the CBAC chair will have the opportunity to ask each department head the questions on behalf of CBAC.
Mr. Clerk, thank you. So to answer your question, Councilman McKenna, the chair of CBAC will be answering those questions.
Can I answer them or just going to ask them?
Councilman McCray.
Good.
Okay. So now, Madam Chair, the CBAC, would you please introduce the CBAC members before you ask your questions so that the public, all that don't know who they are, will know.
Hi, good evening. I'm Robin Bright. I live in the 3rd Ward, and I was selected by Councilman Charles McCray. We have Jackie Robinson. She was selected by Councilwoman Gillette Mills Ransom. Walter Harris, who was selected by Ashley Davis, Councilwoman Ashley Davis. Corey Pettis, who was selected by Councilwoman Terry Bridges-Jones. Miss Loveday, who was selected by Councilman Sean McKenna, and
It's Miss Trumbull. Her first name is Loveday.
I'm sorry, what is her name?
Her name is Loveday Trumbull, so she's Miss Trumbull.
Loveday Truffles. Okay, got it.
Trumbull.
Thank you. And I believe, and Charles Simmons, who was selected by Councilman Steve Huckaday. I think I'm missing a.
Sylvia Owens.
Okay. Unfortunately, we just had our first meeting, an introductory meeting with Director Ron West on Monday, and only 4 of us showed up for the meeting. So we haven't heard anything from 3 of the CBAC members. There was a couple of questions submitted by one of the CBAC members who was present on the meeting on Monday. She had a question about the safety supplies. There was 0 allocated for 2022 and 5,000 requested in actual for 2021. Same thing with janitorial supplies. There was 0 requested for this year's budget, and 2021 budget, there was $25 requested in actual. So there was a question on that. There was some other questions.
Madam Chair, did you divide those from public safety as opposed to those questions are divided? Because right now I believe we're doing Director Dabney first.
Yes,
Okay.
that was Public Works.
Okay.
That was Public Works.
Okay.
Well, if you don't mind, that 251 and 252, that 0 is for ARPA. Those are ARPA funds for those 2. 251, Chairperson Bright, 251, 252, those are ARPA funds for both of those 2 0 outs.
All right, thank you. Let me get back to Department 290004 on line 104. Well, I think you already answered this question about overtime. The question was with the hire of new, there was quite a few new hires throughout the department. So we were questioning why the need for a $53,000 increase in overtime. Line 225 in the same department, for traffic signs and stripping, the question was, there was no money allocated for that, and we were wondering if that was being moved somewhere else.
Just to answer that for you, Chairperson Brad, if you don't mind, I would, that line item was moved to signal systems, line 253, that's where that went. They're handling the striping and all the signage. That's where that was moved to.
On line 206 in department 305, the 22 actual amount was $46,717. And we were wondering why there was only $2,000 being requested and recommended by the admin. Line 256, there was an increase of $50,000. We were wondering about that. The department 371, line 101, 2001, it appears there was an increase of $156,000 requested and no recommendation from admin for this year. We're just wondering if there was no, and I believe that might have been for seasonal workers. And I think you already addressed that. It was line 101. But maybe not for seasonal workers.
Oren, let's do this. I think at this point, the best thing to do on those specific questions is to let's send me those responses in writing, and I'll make sure they get to the CBAC group and even the council, so they can see what the questions were and what our responses are. And that way, there's a record. On the general questions that they asked, they did get responses back this afternoon. Doesn't mean that they won't have more questions, but the intent is to make sure that from an educational perspective, they can see and understand everything that was asked, by them, and our responses back to them, if that works for you.
Absolutely, yes it does. Whatever needs to be done, we'll make sure it happens.
And Ron, you have a list of those questions or those line items I sent to you earlier today.
That's correct.
All right, that was it. Thank you.
Council colleagues, I will allow an additional minute for any follow-up questions you may have.
Council President, I just have a quick procedural question.
Councilman McKenna.
I feel like we're a little all over the place here because we have multiple questions coming from the CBAC, which are probably very good questions, but I only saw one email today. And I don't see, Director West mentioned that responses were sent out. I didn't see any responses. And he also mentioned that if Chairperson Bright sent her questions that hadn't been answered, he would send them to the CBAC members and also to the council, which, this is a council budget, not an administration budget. So I feel like we're just all over the place here. What exactly is the process? Is it different than what I saw in the email about outlining this process, or?
Director West.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, when I get questions from CBAC,
I'm sorry, if I could just interrupt, Director West, with all due respect. My question was for the council president. This is the council budget. That question was for you. We decide how this process works, and you are the one that presents it. If this is our process, not the administration's process.
Exactly, and we work very closely with the finance director, and of course.
So do we have to answer our questions when this is a council budget? How is it you ask for this to be laid out in the flow?
I have a question for the director if you will allow.
I haven't had my question answered yet. Can we do them one at a time?
The council members are to submit their questions along with the CBAC.
So I didn't get any council questions. I got one list of CBAC questions one council group of questions from Councilwoman Briggs Jones. I didn't see any CBAC questions. I didn't see any responses. And this isn't really how this is to be done, where we send our answers and questions via email and we just sit here and stare at each other. So I don't understand what this process is.
Well, in all respect to you, Councilman McKenna, I don't think we're sitting here staring at each other. Questions
we're not getting questions answered. So far, only 2 council people have asked questions. And it's a council budget. So what is it we're doing? In the CBAC, they don't have their questions together. They claim they're being emailed. I haven't seen them. You haven't seen them. The administration's saying they've answered questions that were emailed. I haven't seen those either. So what you tell me how we're not staring at each other.
Director West, how many questions have you received via email?
I had received 2 emails with multiple questions, but from my perspective, and what worked last year too, was that when CBAC asks questions, I send those responses back to CBAC and to the Finance Committee of the Council. Any responses that I have. I'm still awaiting responses from Directors Dabney and Abney with regard to their responses to the questions that were specifically for them.
So
why is it we're having so many responses done via email when these are public hearings and we should just be asking the questions? If we want to send them to the directors so that they can do a little homework in advance, I get that, but we should be asking them publicly and having them answer them. Especially if we send them in advance. If they can't answer them in advance, what are we doing here?
Those questions.
This is like the goofiest thing I've ever seen. Everything is via email, which none of us are getting, and we're the ones that are doing the budget.
Director West, the questions that were asked, would you please let the governing body know what they were, please?
Well, I will have to.
I guess the proper question would be: were those questions answered, and were they satisfied with those answers? Just as Councilwoman Terry Briggs Jones asked her questions to the Director Dabney, and she was satisfied with the answers of her questions. Any council members that submitted any questions to be answered, as long as they were answered to their satisfaction, I don't see a need for them to be repeated again in this section.
It's a public hearing. We're all council people. We should hear everybody's questions. We should all discuss it and hear the answers. Why are we doing this via multiple emails going off in different directions? I don't understand this at all. This is not a public hearing. This is us talking about people sending emails to who knows who.
The intent, I believe, and I shouldn't be speaking for the CBAC, was that in our responses, we would be providing the specific answers to the questions. That didn't occur today. What we will have to do is send out the questions and answers, as soon as I have all of those answers back. Now, for the generic questions that came in today, I responded to CBAC. And again, that was more for their learning. And these weren't things, and the one question that I answered from Councilwoman Briggs Jones was whether or not there was money allocated for a roads budget. I don't think that response needed to go to the full council because that was on the bond ordinance.
And for the sake of the public, what were the remaining questions that Councilwoman Jones asked?
Would you like for me to ask them?
Councilwoman Briggs Jones, yes, you can. Go right ahead, please.
All right, first of all, I just apologize to everybody because this email thing is just a little crazy, but that's okay. So I just wanted to just say, first of all, good evening to everybody, Mayor Matt, fellow council members, and Plainfield City Clerk, Deputy Clerk, and Plainfield constituents. I just want to make sure I say that. And I just want to say, all of this is my first time as an elected official. I look forward to working as a team to move forward this year's city budget. So, as we moving forward with the hearing, I would like to thank the directors for all their work that they do for the city of Plainfield. So I just want to make sure that's on the record and that you know that. So with that, moving forward, the first question I had asked is, were there any funds allocated to any commissions such as the shade tree, the flood, the housing, and everything? Director Dabney did address the question, and he.
What was the answer, Councilwoman Briggs Jones?
Okay, Director Dabney said that the funds come from somewhere else regarding the shade tree and flood and housing. And I said, okay, I'm okay with that. And the reason why I asked that question is because I'm on the committee for the shade tree. And of course, I take a very big interest in that to beautify the city, as well as learning how the shade tree works. So I just wanted to say that he did address the question appropriately and did tell me that the funds come from somewhere else. And then actually, the business administrator, Ron West, he did answer the question also as well. And I asked about the budget for the street repairs. And they did answer that appropriately also as well about the grants. Then there was the question that he can also answer right now, Director Dabney. And again, I was satisfied with that. And I asked him, was there a projection in savings in staff, such as retirement and layoffs? And Director Dabney, could you just answer that for me, please?
Yes, I was just saying, based on what you asked me with that, when someone retires and we replace them, we go at a lower level. In other words, if there's a clerk 4, we may hire somebody new as the clerk 1 because that clerk 4 was there because of the years of service they were in. They were at a higher range. So the new hire will come in a lower range. So yes, there is some savings there due to that, yes.
Okay. And then the next question was, were there any major differences in your budget from last year to this year? And I said to please explain.
Mm-hmm. And there weren't many major differences other than I'm saying park enforcement, some new hires we want, and that's pretty much it. So.
Okay. And then my last question is, in brief, which will probably be addressed to all directors during this hearing, is in brief, what changes are you asking for in the new budget?
And it's simple. I was saying, like, just to repeat, just some other new hires and funds that we can do to continue providing services. So.
Councilwoman Briggs Jones, are you okay with that?
Yes, I'm satisfied.
Okay.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Director
thank
Dabney. Mm-hmm.
Welcome, Councilman.
Council colleagues, any questions that cannot be answered during our budget process, and a specific director needs to get back to you, they will email you. Moving forward, all those questions will be asked at each deliberation. They will no longer be emailed. Moving forward, you will ask your questions during each session. That way it's email. However reliable it may or may not be, we're not doing that. We will bring our questions to each session. Okay? So
to clarify, no questions should be emailed, but brought to the budget hearing. But if we have
to clarify,
I didn't finish with my question.
I know, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to rephrase that. You can bring your questions to the deliberation. However, if those questions can't be answered, then that particular department will reach out to you with your response as expeditiously as possible.
So we're not emailing questions in advance?
No, we're not. We're not emailing anything in advance. But if your questions cannot be answered, that department head will get back to you.
I think that sounds fair.
Okay?
Thanks. Council President, I had a
Yes, Councilman Hockaday, I apologize. Go right ahead, sir.
no problem. I see in one of your goals, Director, you are to hire additional code enforcement officers to help with the backlog of inspections. Can you give us an idea of what that backlog looks like? How many code enforcement officers you're looking to hire? Would that be a temporary hiring of those inspectors? Or would we permanently need to increase our employee capacity there to keep up with the booming real estate market in Plainfield?
Yes, that's a valid question, Councilman. And yes, I mean, the city of Plainfield and Positive is booming in terms of real estate, et cetera. So that's required quite a few more inspections. We currently have 6 inspectors. The new one will be 7. The goal eventually is try to get to 10. We can, because again, the city's growing, steadily growing, and we need to do a lot of inspections for, cell inspections and soil parental throughout the city of Plainfield. So yeah, the goal is to try to increase there, so we can be up to date too. And there's a lot of closings going on, things taking place where inspections are needed internally. And sometimes people get short patient because it can be a long list, and the goal is to try to shorten that list over time. Like I said, we did 745 certificate of compliance sale inspections. So that's continuing to grow. And again, the city's booming. I mean, think about just the population alone, from 50,000 to 54,000 folks. So it's booming, and there's a lot of things going on in Plainfield, a lot of properties being sold, and it's a positive thing. People are moving in. So just ongoing. So yes, the enforcement will help keep up with the growing city, the way the city's growing. And again, we'll move to 7 inspectors. So we had 6, it'll be a 7th inspector. And one inspector that we have, unfortunately, had a major ailment, so I'm gonna see how that may set us back too. So we'll see what goes on with that. But for now, yes, it will benefit us overall.
Mr. President.
Yes, Councilwoman Mills Ransom.
May I ask that you reconsider what you just said about no advance emailing of questions in light of, it may be an opportunity to give the administration time to get the answer prepared for the evening. I just think the compromise would be that we would read the questions in public, but also it should not take away from one's ability to send the questions early so that the administration may be ready to answer it. If I sent a question, I can ask it again in public. That's the consideration of asking you to do.
So the questions that are sent ahead of time should be presented to the public along with the answers.
Yes.
I think that's reasonable.
Council President, quite honestly, if people want to do that, they're free to do that. But if directors are not able to answer 90% of the questions on the fly when they have time to prepare for these meetings, and it's not, these budgets that they have are not that complex, then it's an embarrassment. I mean, if they have a couple of questions here and there, they're like, I just don't know the ins and outs of a Parks and Rec program. I get it.
One's opinion can be one's opinion. I don't
Okay.
That I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mills Ransom, Councilwoman.
You need to stop, Sean.
Councilwoman Mills Ransom has the floor.
This is a.
You need to stop.
Mills Ransom, will you finish your statement, please?
Yes, I'm just saying that in no way, I don't know how you turn it to say that people are not prepared or don't need time and should do everything on the fly. Nobody knows what the question's going to be. I'm just saying that's the compromise that I'm putting out there.
And I believe some questions do require some time. Everyone doesn't know everything, and I disagree. However, that the administration is not prepared. There's sometimes when they need some time to, but the email thing just didn't seem like it was working properly. So those questions that are asked, even if they are prior, those questions will be asked publicly and the answers will be given publicly moving forward.
I thank you, because this is not an I got you game. This is about getting the information out.
We're not dealing with that. But
okay.
And moving forward, we will not be dealing with. I do, however, want to publicly apologize to Councilwoman Davis. I am not a rude person, and I was not cutting you off. I did cut you off, but I was getting direct to the point with what I was saying, so that we wouldn't be dragging it out. So, Councilwoman Davis, I apologize to you publicly for cutting you off earlier. Okay. So we're moving.
Thank you. I still don't know what we're doing in terms of questions, but I guess we'll figure it out in the next budget hearing.
Questions will be, those questions that are submitted prior will be asked and answered at each deliberation moving forward.
Thank you.
No questions will just be answered by and given to one of our colleagues or the CBAC without publicly mentioning those questions and answers moving forward. Okay,
Sure.
thank you. Moving forward, would the police division please begin their